okay if we would have said, can we suspend this for a moment and listen to what the concerns are, so that it doesn't appear like a window for dialogue has been opened just to pacify the environment, but nothing substantive is being handled. So, and this has been the call by the church, even as you have heard Reverend has shared here, and even those who have spoken to the government through media from the church platform, the cry has been, is it possible for dialogue to be given a chance? Because I will tell you, Abdi, the finance bill was reduced to bread and the whole issue of motor vehicle tax. I have gone through that finance bill, though not from an expert perspective, but I can tell you it was not just about those two things. Would have the government said, could it be that the wrong information about the tax bill has gone out there, and then we sit with these people and explain what this finance bill is about? But I think what happened is a sense in which people felt like this was already a done deal. You have to live with it, whether you like it or not. The church cry has always been, can we give dialogue a chance? Can we sit down and reason together? And I believe with all my heart that if we had gotten to that place, a place where we say, let's suspend the process for a moment, and even if it is a week or two, let's engage the public and let's see what the contentious issues are, we will not have gotten where we got yesterday and where we are now as a country. Yep.
Maybe Reverend Elias, given that we reached this particular position due to the recommendations and the proposals that were made in the finance bill of 2024, how did you find it in the first place when you received that document the first time?
Well, I am in charge of the Directorate of Peace, Justice, Reconciliation and Creation Department in my charge. And what happens is that when we receive some draft policy documents, we analyze this and we update our head of church and we tell them this is what this document is speaking. And when that happens, then our head of church is now able to speak from an informed position. It is being seen as if the church leadership is talking from a no information. That we have to correct. In our religious coordinating bodies, NCCK, EAK, where he comes from, Organization of African Instituted Churches, SUPKEM, NAMLEF for the Muslims, the SAJ, and the Hindu Council and the SDA. They are 9 in number. Now, if you add all denominations which have legal departments that are able to analyze legal documents, we know what we are talking about. So when we say drop the proposal of the increase of fuel levy from 39 to something, we understand what we are talking about. When we tell you that the grave issues in the bill are 10, and more to that, we even have more. But we have issues with the 10. Somebody comes and tells us that he was only talking about bread. Bread was the cosmetic that was covering the entire bill. So that people see bread, and when bread is removed, then everything will be okay. In this Republic of Kenya, if you add fuel for even 1 shilling, what happens to the transport? What happens to the other sectors? The truth of the matter is, we raised these issues before, and it is not now that we are raising them. Yes, somebody can say today that Parliament has given people the period for public participation, given people the time to they have gone through the first reading, the second reading, the committee stage, and the third reading. They are talking like that. But even when that is done, we know how bills are assented to as law. The president can be given that law. And what can he do with it? He can say, with these amendments, please take it back for discussion in the parliament. That can happen. And this is what we are telling the president. How many liters of blood will we have, spilled in this country for a simple thing? Just saying, let us suspend this and let us now discuss this. Because even when it is suspended, it doesn't mean the government will not be collecting taxes. There are already taxes that are in the law. There are already taxes that are being collected even now. Why should we subject the country to a situation where we are moving from not evolution to a revolution? Why do we have to allow such things? In this country, all of us will be there. It is shameful to see that our members of parliament that are elected submit themselves to be evacuated. And if there was not that tunnel, what would have happened in this country? And is the country prepared? This is the country where we don't even have the electoral commission. Yeah?
Yes.
The IBC is not formed. We don't have the commissioners. If the worst happened yesterday, that a number of those politicians were killed, the way our young people were killed, what would have happened to this country? It means that the country would have gone into an election mode, and then who are we going to be to have elected? Maybe not voices of reason at some point, because when there is a crisis, everybody is in a panic mode, and we may not get the right people elected. We are saying we offer ourselves as religious institutions, and my moderator in PCA is capable, just alongside his peers in the religious sector, to mediate the issues between the government and these young people. Are these people to be ignored? You fall in that category. Are you people to be ignored? You are asking us sensible questions in this show. So it means you are a sensible person. How about these young people who are here, who are manning this studio? They are people who are already in leadership. So when they tell you, fellow leader, listen to us, we are seeing 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can we come to a table? Can you, it is in your power. Can you do something about it? I think we should listen to one another. I have these Gen Zs in my home. I have also the millennium in my home. How do I treat them? Yeah? If today I was to fade out of the scene, go upstairs, I mean to the Lord, who will be running my home? Is it not my children?
Yes.
So why do I think that they cannot have a say in what I'm doing? And it is wrong to brand these young people as criminals. Yeah? You can't have a blanket statement. I was waiting to hear, yes, there were some criminals, but there are also the genuine Protestants.
Which he did, he separated. He said, among the Gen Zs, there are criminals who were able to hide themselves, because we have seen the damages afterwards, especially within the city.
Yeah, but he was not able to even condole with the what? With the Gen Zs who died. It is right to separate the way he did, but it is also right to be specific and say, I would want to do it this way and this way. These people are not used to, even when you call them for dialogue, who are they? Where will you get them from? I mean, they are not our type which will be writing memorandum and come to your boardroom and present to you. They are not that type. So it is you understanding what they are saying and then responding to them in a manner that will cool the tempers down. That's what we want. If it can happen today, Abdi, if it is able to happen today, fellow Kenyans, then tomorrow we will not be having such demonstrations. But if it doesn't happen, they are like, okay, is that the language you understand? We are not talking of the 1990s when the younger people were on streets. We are not talking of the 2000s when they were on streets. We are talking of the 2024. How many years after 1990? We are talking of over 30 years. So if we are not able to have evolved from the way we handle these young people, then we need to be ready to understand them. And in our government structures, I believe we have some people who can relate with what these people are doing and saying,
yes,
and can advise the government the right way.
yes.
We are not ready as a church to see blood being spilled all over. It is us who will be traumatized. We got traumatized through a natural calamity that is corona.
Yes.
And when the government realized that they cannot do something about it, what did they do? And you are in this country. They invited the church under Bishop Muheria. We developed a structure on how we are going to handle the people of Kenya to face corona. Did it work? It worked. And how come somebody feels that we cannot, as a church, come and help? And when we talk, our voices should be heard. Politicians are not the only leaders in this country. And now we are realizing that the adults of our age are not the only leaders in this country.
Yes.
The Gen Zs are also saying we are not leaders of tomorrow. And if it is tomorrow, we are beginning today.
Okay.
So how do all these leaders who are in leadership positions, either reigning or ruling, come together and say, this is our country, and the leadership at whatever level and whatever ages and generations should come together and say, this is our country, and we have to rule it the right way.
Okay. Reverend Agola, I'm coming back to you, of course. Given that you've just talked about the political class, there is a point I've even been sent here by one of my colleagues. I'll ask you that particular question. But to Reverend Paul here, we're talking about even after the Kimani Kuria-led Committee of the Finance were able to drop some of the proposals, should that bill, instead of dropping some of the proposals, just subject it to more public participation?
You know, Abdi, and this is very, very important. The question we should be asking ourselves, what is the overall burden of tax on the common mwananchi? Because the cry is not Kenyans saying we are not going to pay tax. The cry is Kenyans feel overtaxed. And it is true, if what the government has shared with us is anything to go by, that there is no money, as it were, and when the government, this current government came in, there was that talk of empty coffers. But from where I sit as a Kenyan who follows the happenings of the country, I'm almost made to believe that that was not the case, because of the kind of opulence and display of wealth by some of the leaders in the government. The whole idea of accountability is something that we are still grappling with, because if there is no commitment to seal the holes where public funds are misused, then why should we keep paying more? That's a question that one asks. And the president has come out strong and talked about austerity measures in the government. But would it be right for one to observe and say that has just been word on paper? Because that austerity, those austerity measures, we may not necessarily say that we are having austerity measures. Before this, the discussion of the bill, when we got the first proposal, there was the issue of reduction on the capitation of the school feeding program. But yet, on the same breath, there was an issue of renovation of government offices. Abdi, I want you to see that what we are seeing now in the country is as a result of anger that is so deep-seated, and this anger has not been managed in the right way. Because when we stand and ask, how is the government going to address the matters of corruption in the country? We don't get an answer. You look at EACC, they are trying as much as they can, but we have not had, serious political, goodwill that says if you are arrested having stolen public money, then these are the consequences. And I know that we have set structures, we have the judiciary, but I can tell you in matters of governance, if there is no strong political goodwill, let me give you an example, because my first voting I did in 2002 when we brought Kibaki on board. It did not require even EACCs to go out. But Kenyans, because they were fed up, they were even dealing with corrupt cases right there on the face. There are structures that have been set. But if there is no political goodwill, sometimes you find there is a struggle. That even the institutions that have been put into place, they are not able to follow through. So when you look at where we are this is purely because we are asking ourselves, these monies that are coming and the monies that are going to be taxed from Kenyans, what is going to come out of this? If the people who are the people representative in parliament are actually some of the people who are displaying bundles of monies, yet there is the claim that there is no money in the country. So this anger, could it be as a source of, yes, there is no money in the nation, but we can see people who are displaying this wealth. And if you were to do lifestyle audit of our leaders, how many of them are going to pass the lifestyle audit? And how many of them can explain this is how far we have come as far as making our wealth is concerned? Kenyans are not refusing to pay tax. No. It is even the Bible that we must pay tax. But also the same Bible requires that the government should not overtax, should not take more than they ought to. Because right now, if we go back to the finance bill, and you tell me it's okay, we have dropped the bread, thank God for that. We have dropped the motor circulation tax, it is all right. But what happens to the petrol? If you put the fuel levy higher, there is nothing you have helped me with. Then we need to take a stock and ask ourselves, we had Finance Bill 2023 and the monies were raised. What have we done? And I believe that once we get to that place and actually address these very fundamental issues that are being raised, that would be very, very important. But let me say something, Abdi. 30 seconds because I'm supposed to go somewhere. Yes. Even as we agitate for the repeal and dropping of the finance bill, what are the ways that we can use that don't lead us to where we were yesterday? It should not be heard that people are dying on our streets. That's a question that we need also to ask as ourselves, as the protesters and as Kenyans.
Okay, Reverend, I'm coming back just in a few. I need to take our viewers to the ongoing East African Sub-Regional Forum on Artificial Intelligence, where the Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Ezekiel Machogu, is currently speaking. Let's listen in to the conversations that are happening there.
To enhance the running, innovation. Thank you.
Well, that was the Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu just appearing before the East African Sub-Regional Forum on Artificial Intelligence at the Edge Convention Center, a conference that started 32 hours ago. And of course, our reporter Sarafina Robi was following up on earlier in the week, and we do understand she is also following up on this particular day and duly inform us in our subsequent bulletins. Of course, the Education Cabinet Secretary, many are expecting him to talk about a midterm break, especially following yesterday's incidences and the uncertainty surrounding that. But of course, course, the security forces have assured Kenyans, including the president himself, who spoke yesterday, clearly stated that the property and the lives of Kenyans will be secured in this particular endeavor. Now, let me head over back to my guest, that is Reverend Dr. Elias. Reverend, earlier on, Reverend Paul was talking about transparency. Is transparency the silver bullet to this particular situation right now?
Thank you, Abdi. Certainly, transparency is a virtue that we have to embrace. Mm-hmm. And transparency only says, I know you know that this is what you gave me. And I know you know that I promised that I'm going to use it this way. And now I'm coming back to you to tell you that what you gave me, you did not give me enough. Mm-hmm. But this is how I used the little that you gave me. And so, when I come back to you and ask you for more, you should be willing to do that, because I understand the circumstances upon which you are not able to reach the limit that I set for you. So in transparency, you become clean and say, this is what I did with what you gave me. But when you conceal the issues around transparency, it means there's something that you know that we do not know, or something that you know that we also know. What do we know about our resources in this country? The former president once said that 2 billion Kenya shillings goes into waste, into very few people's pockets in the name of corruption. 2 billion per day. The monies that is being asked for in this finance bill, the extra that is supposed to be given through these taxes that the Gen Zs and everybody in Kenya is saying are heavy, is 346 billion. This is also equivalent to the monies that the county governments are asking. And therefore you hear somebody say that let us cut the monies that go to the what? To the county governments. That cannot work, because the county governments are the people on the ground. Remember, some of the vital and crucial functions are delegated to the county governments, like the health, for example. So when you say that you are going to cut that, it cannot work, because you are like telling the common mwananchi that you should not go and find a simple medical procedure in the local health facility. Now,
Reverend, would you not argue that even in the devolved units as well, we do have that corruption?
I know, and I'm coming back, I'm coming to that. So when we moved from centralization to devolution, we also devolved, including some of the vices that used to happen and that still happen in the national government. So we have corruption at all levels. And the reason why this happens is because our governance system has not accepted to confront this. Let me give you an example of what happened just the other day, and it is in the public arena. The EACC investigated and prepared files, 7 files. When they were handed over to the ODPP, what happened? They only took 1 file and returned 6. Remember, these people had to burn the midnight oil to ensure that they have evidence of corruption. So why are these 6 being thrown away? Who are they? And who are they related to in terms of association? We would want to have a country where everything is transparent, a country where, as he puts it, as my colleague Pastor puts it, that we have political goodwill, and the politicians know that they do not just need to shout that we are representing people when they know they are not. An example in point is yesterday, when they are saying that they are representing people in parliament, what was happening in their homes, what was happening in their local constituencies. So who are they representing? We would want to ask the politicians to know that they have to be accountable and transparent to the people on the ground, so that when they come up here to represent us, they represent us. Of course, some of the views that may come are erroneous. Others are not able to be implemented. You cannot implement it, and they are unimplementable, just like that. But at least show these people that you are listening to them. Show them that you are there to guide their thoughts. If their thoughts were not pegged on anything tangible or practical, then you show them that you are there. You have listened to them, you have understood what they are saying, and you have a system of working on these things. But whisking them away and talking carelessly, like one politician talked the other day, you can play it here because I got it from KBC. He said, if you remember the ones that, I don't want to mention names here, if you remember the ones that were in some reflector jackets, and they say, well, if your child has some small thorn, you just push it, they will cry a bit, but you will remove it.
Okay.
That's careless. And come to what he has said, you display wealth that you have not earned. You display wealth that sometimes you have stolen. Who is this that can walk with a bag of 20 million and take it somewhere and nobody asks? Even today, if you have to withdraw 1 million shillings from your account, the bank will ask you, where are you taking the money to?
Yes.
For what reason? And it is your money. And your account is clean. It has billions maybe. But removing just 1 million, somebody will have to ask. In fact, you can't write a check of 1 million, can you?
Yes.
You can't. You can only write a check of less than 1 million and have them maybe as triple checks. So I would want to see a Kenya where we are ready to listen to one another, a Kenya where we are ready to understand that I'm a leader and there is also another leader, and we also have upcoming leaders who are in the artificial space that the minister was talking about.
Yes.
Artificial space, artificial intelligence space. These are people that can generate a whole document.
Okay, Reverend.
Within a very short time. These are people who can help us grow very fast. These are people who can help us even do something good.
Okay, Reverend Paul, I'm coming to you. Just give me a minute. We need to take our viewers to another function that is currently happening here in the capital. It is the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis 7th Annual Conference that is happening here in the capital. Also, I'm being informed that Dr. Rose Ngungi, the Executive Director of KIPRA, is currently addressing. Let's head over there and listen in to the conversations there.
The KIPRA Annual Regional Conference, it has been informed by the work that is going on.
Accelerating industrialization through the digital.
It's the ongoing 7th Annual Conference of Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, that is KIPRA, happening in Kisumu. The conversation is focused around industrialization, with this year's theme being the future of industrialization in Kenya, of course, coupled with the better agenda of the national government. Also, they're talking about involving the youth when it comes to industrialization matters, and that is where I was coming to Reverend Paul here. My guests are still here with me. Reverend Paul, we're talking about the major issue, the reason as to why we're seeing this many youths in the streets. The issue has been unemployment, and events such as this one and many others that are being held in the country. Should it create more opportunities for the youth so that they can at least be occupied?
Definitely, Abdi. And if we go back a bit to how this government came to power, it rode on that wave and belief that they were ready to change people's lives, and especially so the youth, who are commonly known as the hustler. So it was through the hustler movement that the government came into power. And therefore, and Reverend spoke here, is a bit unfortunate that when the elected representatives see the young people on the streets protesting because of the heavy taxation, they have now changed the language from these are hustlers whose lives need to be improved to talks like these are KFC eating, chicken eating, iPhone waving youths. I think the moment we get to a place of not understanding that unless we provide job opportunities for our young people, this problem will not cease. And how do we provide opportunities for our young people? I'm a strong believer that Kenya is a very rich nation. We are endowed with so many things. And if we are able to use and account for what we have, we can actually be able to develop this country. But the challenge that we are having now is that there are no job opportunities that are forthcoming. The cost of living is becoming unbearable. And at the same time, to add salt to injury, you find as a level of insensitivity when it comes to developing, taxes and stuff. One person argued and said, and actually I had this from today's breakfast show here on KBC, that if the finance bill is not assented by the president, then what we are saying is that there is not going to be money for schools, money for hospitals, money for infrastructure development and all that. I don't think that is true. Because if, to start with, we don't have money as a country, is it possible to sit and say, what kind of infrastructural development should we have that is aligned to our own way of funding such? Because our debts are rising, and because the debt burden is becoming heavier, we need now to go deeper and tax Kenyans more so that we can be able to fit this burden, to pay the debt, and at the same time also bring about the infrastructure development and all that we need to do. The place of dialogue, Abdi, and I believe this is the voice of the church. The voice of the church is asking, yes, we know there are burdens, we have tax burdens. Yes, we know that there are infrastructural development and all other things that we need to do. Then how can we be able to manage within what we have? I want to imagine myself not even being able to fund myself to build a Mabati house. Then I start looking for ways on how I am going to fund myself to build a story building or 10-story building. That tells you that I'm not in touch with my reality or where I am. If the country does not have finances, then what we are supposed to do is to get to that place and ask ourselves, how can we work with what we have without going again to put more pressure on a populace that is already struggling? The cry of the Gen Zs, and I believe it's not just the Gen Zs alone, all of us, is, can the government review their tax policies? And can we look at how we can be accountable with what we have and how we can seal the loopholes of corruption? Once we are able to do that, this problem is going to cease. But let me also say, Abdi, and I was asking myself yesterday, is there a possibility that we could not have gotten to where we are now, even though the protest had started? And my answer is yes. As I said earlier, when the president, and we commend him for that he has listened to the concerns of the Gen Zs and the Kenyans at large, and he has said that, you know what, they have valid concerns. That was on Sunday. I wish that he followed through with that statement, so that the members of parliament who sat yesterday to pass the bill would have said, can we put this to a hold and see what is going on? I am very sure if that happened, we will not be where we are today. And I don't think it is all lost, because at the end of the day, the bill has been passed by parliament and it is headed for
Senate.
The Senate, and of course they are sent by the president. We still have time where we can say, let's correct ourselves. The place where we said that it is time to reason together, and that is the cry of the church. The time to reason together is to say, do we want to ban our country further? Because we must do this and it must be done whether you like it or not? Or do we need to sit down and say, hey, this is our country, we need to build our country, how do we build it? Remember this, Abdi. The Constitution says clearly that of course we have delegated the power of the people through our elected representatives. But when we tell you as an elected representative that you go and represent us, it is not your own voice that you represent. It is the voice of the people that elected you that you go sit and represent in parliament. So the people that you have elected are saying, hey, take a stop, come back, let us tell you what you're gonna go and do there. But I think there is such a disconnect. The masses are very angry, and then we also have a government that is angry right now, which doesn't work very well. So we need to come to that place of an equilibrium where we are saying we have debts to pay and we have a country to develop. What should we do as a people? The whole aspect of running a government that we were initiated to by the Kenya Kwanza government, which was a very good model, it was a bottom-up. When did that change to become a top-bottom when it comes to matters of discussing the tax, the financial bill? Yep.
Okay. Before I toss it over to Reverend Elias here, we have a statement official from the Speaker of the National Assembly, that is Honorable Moses Masika Wetangula. He clearly states, and I quote, "Honorable members, I would like to charge all of us, whether members of parliament or citizens, as bona fide owners of this great land, we must endeavor to protect our nation. We are all citizens of this great nation and must therefore accommodate each other, since Kenya is all that we have." He further states that we must stand strong, always working towards peaceful and a prosperous future, ensuring that the sanctity of this institution is never compromised again. Further, the Speaker clearly states that I am not a stranger to the conversations that have been going on in this country with regards to the finance bill and the general state of the country's economy, of the nation, and further lauds the youth of this nation for taking the lead in the discourse, and was a privilege to be alive at such time as this, could behold our children engage in and shape the cause of our nation. However, it is imperative that these discussions are held in a structured and meaningful manner within the confines of the law, in order for them to realize the desired results. Violence, disrespect, and wanton destruction of property and blatant attack on public institutions shall not be condoned. The Speaker further clearly states that, honorable members, such the occurrence has never happened in history of the nation, and it is in sincere hope that we shall never have a repeat of the same. This is just as the Speaker's sentiments through the National Assembly. And of course, we can also duly inform you that Parliament has been cordoned off to ascertain the level of damage that has happened in and around Parliament. Of course, we're anticipating Parliament to sit, but we are waiting further communication from the parliamentary team to tell us if there will be a sitting, given that they have not done away with the finance bill in its entirety, given that despite moving through the committee of the whole stage with 195 members voting on it, it's supposed to go to the Senate for concurrence before ascension by the head of a state. Now to Reverend Elias, a couple of the statements that we've just heard here right now from the Speaker of the National Assembly. He even called on the members of Parliament to watch the tone that they normally address to the members of the public. Will this, of course, help the situation as well?
Thank you, Abdi. I'm not sure that the speaker was watching our show, and if he was, he has responded to that show, our call. And you remember my last point was, can we have a political leadership and a government leadership? Government here means the arms of the government, that has sobriety in responding to the issues at hand. What the speaker is saying is what we have been saying. The speaker is saying, please restrain yourself and calculate what you are about to say before you say it. And I like what he has said, that he is committed to ensure that the discussions in Parliament are the discussions that bring us together rather than take us apart. But the truth of the matter is that we have not taken time to listen to these voices, and especially the contrary voices to what we have. I would want to start by saying that the Kenya government, I mean the Kenya Kwanza government, as they were aspiring to come to power, they had a very good manifesto. A manifesto that was talking to a process that will bring somebody who is low to a level where they will be at least, able to feed themselves, to clothe themselves, and to house themselves, to take their children to school. It was a perfect manifesto. A manifesto that is talking to that, low earning person. But what happened when they got into power? I don't know whether it is power that got into them or they got into power. But the truth of the matter is, the delivery of what followed is the delivery of what was not promised. So these young people who have gone to school, and I am glad that while we are here, there is a conference in Kisumu talking about the artificial intelligence. There's another conference, a conference in another place talking about how to involve the young people, and you hear them say, we have 200 young people, of course, as opposed to the 1,000 adults, older people that are somewhere. They talked of 200. They are involving these young people because they have a voice. So have we really taken time to listen to the content of what these young people are protesting about? And if we listen to them, are we not going to have them, come and say to themselves? They will not talk to you. They will say to themselves, yes, we can see they are doing something about what we are saying. And that is what is required. I would want to see a Kenya where we learn to sit down and discuss our issues. Discuss, not argue. Because arguments are geared to proving who is right. If we start an argument with you here, I just would want to prove that I'm right. And that's what is going on in the Republic. We'd want a discussion that proves what is right and that help us to ask ourselves, from now going forward, what are we going to be doing? How are we going to be doing? In the Citizen show this morning, one of my colleagues, Reverend Dr. Kanga, reminded the entire Republic, and I would want to remind us here, that in my church, PCA, we have a document called Practice and Procedure Manual. That is the constitution of PCA. Practice is answering the question, what do you do? Procedure is answering the question, how do we do it? If we are going to call ourselves to a discussion table and say, what is it that we agreed to do? Every person in leadership, and we say, even these young people have a voice, and let them contribute to what we are going to do. And then let them also contribute to how are we going to do it. From there, we'll not be seeing what we are seeing. And I would want to seek that the international community also adds their voices. I heard them say something this morning that they are not in support of chaos and what have you, but they should also face the reality that if this Kenya burns, nobody would want to remain in this republic, including the diplomatic corps.
Okay.
We would want to have a Kenya where all of us feel that we have something that we enjoy. Mutua said, do you enjoy Kenya or do you endure Kenya? We want a Kenya where all of us enjoy, not just endure.
Okay.
And what makes us endure Kenya is what we should discuss to help us enjoy Kenya.
And Reverend Paul, you can echo the sentiments of Reverend Elias there. We were also talking about the statement of the speaker. He clearly said, what a time to live in. This is a young generation interested in the conversations that are happening. The finance bill has been there for years on end, has been financing the budget, but for the last 2 years, it has been a national discourse. So should this youth be given an opportunity not just to voice their concerns, to dissect that particular report, but to ensure their input is in that report so that we don't witness incidences such as yesterday?
Truth is that we are living at a time when the masses and especially the youth are very, very informed. So they will actually call every leader to accountability, and when you promise, their expectations is that you deliver. Part of the conversation also, Abdi, that we should be having in regard to this whole matter is, as we agitate for the review or even...
Okay, Reverend Paul, I'll be coming to you. Let's just paint a picture as you talk to us, but we want to paint a picture of how the Central Business District is currently looking. We have dispatched our very abled senior reporter, that is Regina Manyara, who's currently on ground. Regina, good morning. What are the scenes inside the CBD and how are the businesses looking like? Have they been opened up?
The demos yesterday, or yes, you have to walk around with a handkerchief, Hashim. Now back to you, Broadcasting House.
Thank you so much. That is Regina Manyara just painting the picture of how the Central Business District is looking like. Normalcy is slowly creeping in. And of course, Regina, stay safe with your crew as she keeps us up to date with these particular spot checks that KBC is currently doing, not just in the CBD, but in the various devolved units where the protests were happening yesterday. And of course, before I cut off Reverend Paul Njoroge, he was speaking to that particular issue, but you can also speak to the images we've just received from CBD, especially where goons have infiltrated the protesters to even deviate from the course, from the initial course the protest was about.
And that's what I was saying, Abdi, that that's part of the conversation we need to have, because how do you differentiate the true protester and goon? And the funny bit about these protests is it's hard to lay your hand on who the organizers are. So everybody will be, especially the young people, are psyching up each other to go to the streets. Now, when you go back to our Constitution, Article 37, it has given the masses the permission for picketing. But it is also very clear it has to be peaceful demonstrations. The first 2 days or so of these protests, they were would say that they were largely peaceful. But now the turn that they are taking is warring to everyone. Now, the question is, at what point do the demonstrators retreat and relook at the whole thing of the demonstrations? Why am I asking this? Is on Monday, I think it was on Monday, the CS for internal security, Professor Kindiki, gave directions and said this is what needs to be done. And one of the areas that he said people should not try to access was any critical government building. But it is like this fell on deaf ears. And as it were, if there were goons that infiltrated these protests, how then will the true protesters be protected from the goons, and how can they identify one another? One of the things I would say, because it's not a very easy thing to do, and through this, we in our country, since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution that allows for picketing, very rarely have we had any demonstration that have ended peacefully. Unlike the doctors' strike, they went on strike, and by the way, they could actually also, but they had a way of identifying themselves. You see them on their doctors' apparel, and hence, we didn't see the kind of chaos that we are seeing. But considering where we have come now as a country, and the unfortunate deaths that were witnessed yesterday, what are we supposed to do as demonstrators on one hand, and the security agents on the other hand? I am not speaking as a security expert on these matters, and especially when it comes to the breaching of the parliament wall yesterday.
Yes.
I believe from where I sit that though there was a clarion call to occupy parliament, would it be possible that even as these demonstrations are taking place, they avoid some of the areas that can cause the kind of harm that we saw yesterday? Is there a possibility that our young people, the Gen Zs, would say, and I have seen many of them saying, if I die, tell my children that I died fighting for a better country. Perfect. But the question is, would it be also that as you're fighting for a country, you may not have a country at the end of it all? So these are the conversations we are supposed to have, because this country belongs to all of us. There is nothing that justifies, Abdi, coming for a demonstration and then going to loot. Nothing justifies that. There is nothing that justifies coming for a demonstration and losing life. Nothing justifies that. So the conversation must be very clear that if demonstrations are called, then how do we make sure that demonstrations are peaceful? That's number one. If demonstrations are peaceful, how do we make sure that our security agencies are restraining themselves so much so that we don't end up having the kind of situations we had yesterday? So yes, the Constitution allows, but we also have individual responsibilities as a people on how do we manage ourselves when we go to the streets. That is very, very important, so that we don't lose the cause of what we are fighting for. If it is the financial bill, is it possible to remain focused on the financial bill? And so that if we don't lose course, other people don't come and bring the whole thing down as to what the young people are fighting for. That should be very, very clear, even for the demonstrators, that as we agitate, at the back of our minds we are telling ourselves we have a country that we want to be in tomorrow. Yes.
And let me go to Reverend Agola. We're talking about the situations that you've just witnessed along the CBD as well, but talk to us about the changing political landscape. Now, some would say that Kenya, we are now becoming more mature because the populace the government is dealing with right now is more educated than the previous one. So would you agree that the political landscape is changing?
Yes, thank you, Abdi. I believe we are coming to the tail end at some point. Yes, I would want to end my statements by saying pole to those who lost their lives, the families that are grieving now, and those who are in the hospital, and pray that God will give them the healing that they require and the comfort for those who lost their loved ones. Allow me to say this: power, and I've said it before, and the governance and systems have to learn to evolve. Kenya, since independence, is 61 years, and all those who are 61, by now, they are being called upon to retire. That means that the systems that have served us, if they have not served us well, they should also be reviewed so that they can retire and the new ones get in place. That is evolution. If it doesn't work, then we now hear our own children talk about a language that we do not want to hear in Kenya, because we had such a language in the 50s, the language of revolution, the language of revolt, the language of rebellion, the language of we are taking it, whether you like it or not. So that, I think, the government and all leaders, me included, should be able to listen to the tempo of what these people are talking about, so that we can come to the table. The other thing is the political class. The political class should give this country the goodwill that is vested on them, the political goodwill, so that when they talk to our people, they should talk knowing that they are also living in this country, and that whatever comes out of their minds or comes out of their mouths should be something that brings us together and something that is full of solution. How about the parents? Are we here to blame the parents of these people? Are we here to say that they have never been raised up in a good way? Are we here to throw words like the one that one politician threw and said, these are people with iPhones, these are people who eat at Java? Now, such statements are alarming. Do you want these people to come to you in tatters so that you know they need change in this country?
Okay.
And are they not the people who are growing at a time when Java is there and KPC? So we will need to watch our language and return the goodwill that is required. So the politicians and any leader should learn that. The protesters, who are they? It is true, the goons joined them. And pole kwa wale ambao wamepoteza mali yao kwa CBD. I have some of my members who have lost everything. The house where their premises, business premises are, caught fire and nothing was salvaged. What we are saying here is, pole kwao. But now, again, it is a quagmire. How will you know the real protester and a goon? I think something should be done so that when we are protecting the CBD and vital government premises, we should say that whoever is doing this must be peaceful and follow the Constitution.
Okay.
But using excessive force on these people should stop, because this force also is even, it was even directed to the wrong people. The wrong people here means the young people who are peacefully protesting, and even the humanitarian agencies that were helping. How do you shoot somebody in a Red Cross badge and jacket? How do you shoot such a people? Because even you who is shooting, if you are shot, what will happen? They are the same people who should come to your aid. So I'm saying my last point, second last, is that we need to know that these people who are protesting have some points. What is their point? What is their concern? What are they crying for? How can we come to help? And how can we come to answer their call? And finally, it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that peace is in the country and to ensure that people are protected and people remain in the bounds of this country, well protected by the government they chose and well protected by the state machineries that they are supposed to benefit from. And for us, we have to know this is the only country we have. We do not have another country. We have to be patriotic enough to understand that even when we are agitating for some changes, we have to do it within the confines of the law, and we have to do it in the right way. Our children may be wrong in the how they do it, but they are not wrong in the what they are asking for.
Okay. Thank you so much, Reverend. And of course, joining us right now is Mario Mukuna. Let me give you at least 3 minutes, given that we're running out of time. Your legal expertise here is required, given that. Paint a picture. What has the Constitution envisaged for us in a particular situation such we're currently in?
My most sincere apologies for coming in a bit late. I was in court, and it took a bit longer than I had anticipated. Very, very sorry. This was a very healthy conversation that required all our input, but I'm here now.
Yes.
Now, the first place I'll start from is, it's very fundamental that first of all, the only way for this country, this has been precipitating for a very long time. And the challenge, the greatest challenge we have been having is we are not speaking truth as it should be. The demonstrators who were demonstrating were not armed. They were peaceful. Because the work of the police is to ensure that they give them security, they guard them against any things who then interfered with these peaceful protests. These were peaceful protests. We've had them for, I think, 3 days. They would come demonstrate and go home. But then until we saw the brutality that was meted against very young and youthful protesters who are just agitating for their rights, there is no set way of agitation. So long as you are on the street peaceful. And we heard them singing repeatedly, we are peaceful, we are peaceful. Until the police started brandishing untold violence on them. That is absolutely abhorrible, and everyone in this country should condemn it with in the strongest terms possible. This is not the time, to be very honest, to placate. It is important we speak truth as it is. The president swore to defend and uphold the rule of law. At the end of the day, responsibility lies squarely on his desk, because at the end of the day, he's the one who is pushing these punitive taxes. Everyone, including religious leaders, have been speaking to him, asking him to climb down. We would lose nothing. We would have lost nothing had he just walked back for a minute and just listened to his people, because at the end of the day, he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for our benefit. And that is the thing. That is where that conversation should start.
Yes. But what has the Constitution envisaged for us right now? Right now, you saw what happened in Parliament yesterday. Now we will have the deployment of KDF on the ground. But in this particular scenario, what has our Constitution envisaged for us?
Speaking plainly and truthfully, first and foremost, Article 1 of the Constitution is very apt. It states that all sovereign power belongs to the people. If you're to read the Constitution, there is the letter of the Constitution and the spirit of the Constitution. When you look at that article, this sovereign power has been donated. It's delegated to our national representatives. The act of citizens going to the seat of the National Assembly to now properly protest against decisions they feel are against their wishes. They have, for all intents and purposes, taken their sovereignty back, and they're exercising it. And we are in an unprecedented situation where now we'll need to look back and see. Now, do those people who sit in that August House still have mandate? We've heard what has happened all over the country. That's the first limb. Secondly, the unfortunate reality, the President and the Minister of Defense have no authority to deploy Kenya Defense Forces on our national soil. That's why it's the Kenya Defense. It is meant to protect our borders, not to fight us, because that is literally what they are doing. At the end of the day, first and foremost, as far as the law is concerned, what ought to have happened, if at all there is a security emergency that the Kenya Defense Forces are to be deployed in the country, then the first thing is, the first port of call is the National Assembly. You must get their mandate, and it is by 2/3 majority. You must get their mandate first. And thereafter, upon getting their mandate, the deployment happens 24 hours later. So are we moving to a state of anarchy, precipitated by our own government? So our government needs to follow the law.
Okay.
And that is
Thank you so much. I wish we could have had you a little bit earlier on, but unfortunately the time has run out. That is Marion Mukuna, a legal expert, and Reverend Paul Njoroge Karanje, Senior Pastor, CITAM. Thank you for joining us. And then finally, the only doctor in the house, that is Reverend Dr. Elias Agola from PCA. Thank you so much for making time for us, gentlemen. This is a conversation that will be carried on, and in just a few, we do understand that the KNH management is mobilizing a few doctors who are attending to the victims who are brought there, and there will be a press briefing. And also our reporters also inform us that there is a cleanup exercise that is happening around major roads, especially leading up to Parliament buildings. We'll have that and so much more in the next coming up show. That is Kurunzi Mashinani. Already my colleague Nancy Okware is in the studio and we'll be bringing you that. Continue with the conversations both on and offline. My name is Host-Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Good morning for now.